Okay.
Hi, everybody. It's Thursday, March 5th. This is a Finance Committee meeting on Nantucket. It's 4:01 p.m. I'm going to do a call to order. Joanna Roche. Here. Martin McCarroll.
Here.
Joe Wright.
Here.
Peter Schaefer.
Here.
Anthony Goodwin.
Yep.
Jeremy Bloomer.
Here.
Rob Giacchetti.
Here.
Chris Glowacki.
Here.
Bill Veith, I am here. This meeting is being audio video recorded. We have a little change to the agenda tonight, and we're gonna have to push off Articles 33 and 34, I believe, until Monday.
Yes.
And with that amendment to the agenda, can I get an approval of the agenda?
So move. Second.
On your motion, Peter,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Joanna. Aye. Anthony,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
and Jill's and I. I'm gonna open up things to public comment. And I'm gonna close public comment. We are going to probably go ahead and jump into our warrant articles for town employee housing and the sewer. We have Christy Frantella here and David Gray. Thank you all for coming in person. High marks for in person. Right.
Sure.
Excellent. But I was just thinking about, I just wanted to kind of remind everybody, because when we talk about the debt exclusions, it's always a little bit more in depth and challenging and important conversations about how we're spending money or how we're recommending spending money. And I just thought it was a good time to remind everybody about what the mission of the Finance Committee is. And it is to provide independent financial review and recommendations to town meeting so that the voters can make informed decisions about spending budgets and major capital and financial articles. We're really a fiscal advisory arm of town meeting, and that's really what we do. So just with that, I'm gonna go ahead and open up. I think Christy, you're gonna lead it. Sure. Please come to the table.
Here, we're gonna bring Rachel into. So Rachel Fields, our rental property manager, and helps manage all of our current stock of municipal employee housing. So I thought I would start by just kind of giving you guys an overview. There was a lot of information in your packet. But just to kind of open it up, this is a similar request. It's evolved over the last couple of years as we've gone to town meeting and requested different stages of funding. Last year, we had requested $14 million and did not receive the 2/3 required approval at town meeting. And so we went back to the drawing table and took a look at what other approach could we take to push it forward this year. So this year, the approach was to do as much as the procurement ahead of time and leading up to town meeting, actually have concrete bids in hand to develop the lots over on Waite Drive. So these lots are part of the 246 Fairgrounds complex that was purchased in 2002 by the town for both municipal building operations and for housing. There's currently 3 lots. They're oversized lots for the area and could actually be rezoned into 5 lots. So we did a lot of work in 2024 and leading up to the 2025 annual town meeting around doing a schematic and plan for these lots. Of all these lots, we thought we'd do, starting this year, a phased approach. We would develop 1 lot, proof of concept, show the community we can build, we can stay within budget, and we can house our employees, and then come back at future years to develop the remaining 4 lots. So the request in front of the voters this year is going to be the construction, the design construction, and all those costs affiliated with building out that first lot. Our hope from the preliminary work is to be able to do 1 duplex and 1 single family home. Under current zoning, that means the single family home, one of the 3 units would need to be acting as an ADU or under 900 square feet. So right now we are in the process of securing our design firm and final designs. We have our OPM, John Lemieux is on the call from Vertex, our OPM for the project. We have final designs, we'll go out to bid and have final numbers back. And our goal date for that is April 10th, to have the numbers in hand before town meeting. That's a lot to throw at you. I can go into specifics, and answer any questions.
We'll stop for questions for you. Joe?
Christie, I'm curious as to what your estimate is on the cost per bedroom. You know that's my next.
It is, so I do have that. So one of the challenges right now is that we don't have the final design laid out. Our hope is that we would be able to get 7 bedrooms across the 3 units. You have that number?
So 7 bedrooms for 7 million, that's $1 million a bedroom.
Yes, the 7 million is the placeholder at the moment, for the design of this, for the design and construction of this lot. We do have a few other figures. Recently, the land bank put out to bid on the construction of a duplex for their own employee housing. And that bid came back for just a duplex at 2.3 million.
Or how many beds?
And that's for 6 bedrooms.
6 bedrooms.
So it might come in a lot less.
So that's a much better equation than
Exactly.
7 bedrooms for 7 million.
I think there has to be more things considered than just bedrooms,
Yeah.
you know?
I'm a numbers person, and I find that that's an interesting way to look at the cost of housing. I don't know whether it's perfect. It's not perfect probably, but
Well, I think there's some housing that's really dorm housing. It might be separate bedrooms, but people are just sleeping there. And there's other housing that families are gonna live in. And so it's totally different, I think, in terms of the way it's
but if
constructed.
if you look in Link, it is very difficult to find a house for sale in Nantucket that costs less than $1 million a bedroom. And the normal price is probably more like $1.2 million or $1.3 million, would be closer to the.
So Rachel did some sales data, and what she pulled from last year's sales was the price per bedroom is between 690,000 to 1.5 million. If you were to buy existing homes.
But I presume the homes that the average home on Nantucket that's got 3 bedrooms has got a better equipment in general than you're proposing to put in. They have expensive appliances typically. More living space, my guess would be.
We're seeing really all houses. You're seeing things mid-island,
That's
yeah,
What's the square footage?
of what we're proposing to
beyond
build.
yeah.
That, again, this is the schematic that we had originally. That was under previous zoning, and our zoning has changed since last year, so I think this.
And does the bidding that you put out, does it include modular?
Yes, it would be modular construction. So it would be about 3,200 square feet of finished space.
For all of it?
Per lot, yes,
2 buildings, 2 in 1 building.
for a duplex and a single family.
So it's 32 total.
Do you want to talk about the dormitory that you built and how much that cost and how many bedrooms there were? This is completed in 2025.
Yes. So prior to coming forward with this request for year-round municipal employee housing, the town secured funding to construct the dormitory on Waite Drive. That funding in total was 12.4 million originally, and we constructed the dorm. It's 18 dorm rooms. It has 2 apartments. These are year-round apartments. One's a 1-bedroom and one's a 2-bedroom. So in total, it can support 52 beds across the entire dorm. That was managed by Vertex and J&J as the design and construction.
And the cost,
And the cost was 12.4 million.
which is about how much, this is just my metric.
Oh, Kevin, so.
I calculated 556,000 a bedroom. And 236,000 a sleeper. So that to me, for Nantucket, that's very, very affordable. Nothing's very affordable, in Nantucket, but it's affordable.
Jeremy, you have a question for them?
I do. I thought, Jill, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we had to wait 2 years before bringing something up to the town voters when it got turned down.
I can.
Just zoning that gets a
Just
negative
zoning.
recommendation.
Zoning. That's zoning.
Just
That only
zoning that doesn't have a
pertains to
positive
zoning.
recommendation.
Yeah, that only pertains to zoning.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I have another question, which is, I understand that this plan is in place and it's something that you're pursuing, but in the larger picture, as you go down the road, I have been hearing a lot of conversation about looking at housing that is not on Nantucket. And I kind of want to hear what you have been doing with regard to that, because I had a conversation with a couple of people who started talking about things like looking at places in highlands, which would certainly be a lot less expensive to build and might be appropriate for some of the workforce housing. What are your thoughts on it?
We've evaluated a lot of other options along with the construction of municipal housing, on Waite Drive. We looked at if we were to purchase existing housing around the island. We've also looked at the challenges of a commuting workforce. We do have some commuting workforce at the moment, and we currently manage commuting housing where we arrange for housing when they're on island. I think for our biggest need right now, we have a list of employees. We currently manage 44 units. 43 units is very close. And we have 40 employees on our wait list. Of that, the majority are school administrators and staff and DPW with family. I think
Separate from the hospital.
we don't,
Yeah, it's totally separate.
yeah, we don't house the hospital employees. So I think when I look at who needs housing on our list, that's really difficult to have commuting housing. We can't have teachers getting on the boat when school starts at 7:50.
But of your existing population, of the people in those 43 homes, could any of those folks? No.
All of them are critical staff.
Mm.
You know, if there's a storm here, you need DPW and sewer operations. It's a difficult thing. It is something that we've all explored and talked about. It's just the challenges of in the critical need if you don't have somebody here.
Of these units, the way I understand that you're doing, so correct me if I'm wrong, that these 7 bedrooms are really just to replace some existing leases that you have, right? So it's not adding, we're not growing the housing stock, and they're not gonna be more people housed by this. It's gonna replace you from having to do individual leases with uncertain landlords, I guess.
Right, and the full build out, and something that the select board, is going to have a workshop on, the beginning of April. I'm looking at Rick for a date. Is, our 10-year strategic plan around municipal housing. And right now we have,
Good to know.
many, leases with private homeowners, which, you know, are not guaranteed year to year. And right now one of those is a 5-year master lease with Richmond. And when that terminates after 5 years, we're gonna need 10 units of housing, which is about 16 bedrooms. So we're factoring this construction into the replacement, but eventually want to get to the point where we're not leasing as many units, and we're owning more, so we have more control over that stability and price point.
Is the maximum number of bedrooms you can do on Waite Drive it's a lot more than 7 bedrooms, yeah.
Yes, on all the lots, we could fit about. The schematic shows 35 bedrooms, but a lot of that had on-street parking, so I do think that when you incorporate better parking, it'll have a few plus bedrooms.
Would it be a help if you had different height restrictions?
Absolutely, that would help.
Help significantly, right?
That would help put a 3rd floor on, so that you could have more housing. The challenge, is that once you get above. If you have more than 3 units, then you have a sprinkler system, and that contributes to cost.
A lot of cost too, right? I see your hand up, Anthony.
Chris was first.
Oh, Chris.
What a gentleman. Jill, do I have it correct that this one, has a negative recommendation from the Capital Program Committee?
It does.
Are we gonna hear from someone on the Capital Program Committee to describe why?
You and me?
Well, you or if there's anyone else there, sorry.
No, I'm the only one. So I would say the capital committee, Christy and Dylan and all of y'all did an amazing job giving us so much information. And I think really it wasn't so much of I wouldn't call it a negative recommendation. I think it was more of along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing here, of maybe not this year. She doesn't have her bid in, and you did have like 3 different schematics and you weren't quite sure. So it seemed a little premature. We like to have more firm information when we look at things, which we did in the fall. We did talk in the capital report about, having some sort of private developer come in. I've talked to Christy about that at length. That's really tough because I think it really limits you for what you can charge on the leases. So I do think that's a problem. I can tell you for me personally, and this also was discussed, that I think Affordable Housing Trust has deployed about $120 million so far. And for me personally, I just would like to see some of those projects get further along, which we're seeing with Tacoma Green and I think Orange Street. Because I think that is also going to help with anyone who's employed on the island, not just town employees potentially. And I felt like this was something that could possibly wait, but I hear what Christy's saying about their lease being up in 5 years. It's 5, right?
For now. 4.
Yeah. So I do hear that, but I think it was a pretty mixed at the Capital Committee on this. And maybe it was just more that it wasn't fully formed. I'm personally divided because if you're gonna do it, there is a part of me that says do all of it. But then I think last year at town meeting, you kind of heard from people to say, since it was negative, you thought you should come back with a smaller project. And I think maybe there's just still some unanswered questions on that for me.
I think when we're talking about employee housing on Nantucket, it's not a matter of yes or no, because it has to be yes. It's a matter of when.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really the decision.
I also think it's a matter of how much.
Yeah.
And I think $7 million is too much for what you're trying to build. And so I feel like if you had the bids,
Yeah,
We
if
would-
it comes
it
in
would-
$2.5 million, I think
It's
that'd
kind
be
of-
really different.
it's a lot more palatable. $7 million just seems like a lot of money to spend on 2 houses.
Right. And that's why, I just didn't know, I know your conversation earlier in the week on other articles is, could you delay a vote until the bids are in?
Yeah.
Yeah, or we could do a vote and then change it, but then
It just confuses the voters a little.
Yeah.
it could.
I am against, and I've told you this before, I'm against making a decision before we have a number. Period, finished. I think that's not a good decision.
Okay, but it's not gonna get printed in the warrant, so, if you all wanna
If
wait
it's
to
not
do that.
printed in
as a
the
good thing, you
warrant,
can.
if the moderator can stand up and say that,
Well, she'll put it up on the screen.
yeah, that it's been approved by the finance committee, I think that's enough. But I just don't think we should vote if we don't have a number.
Do we have more people up there?
Oh, yeah, Anthony, you still haven't answered this.
Couple of things that kind of stand out for me, and I'm a bit befuddled by them actually, is 2 units, 7 rooms, $7 million. It actually doesn't move us forward 1 iota. It just gives us ability to have a little bit more control of stuff that we're currently leasing. What really struck for me was you said 40 people on the waiting list, right? And if we build this one, now let's say this goes to town, let's say there's a long discussion about what it looks like, how much money it's going to be, and they don't vote for it again. Then we get no further forward. It's another year before we maybe build 1 unit with 7 bedrooms out, and that way, that for me is going backwards on the process. So I do think that cost sounds exorbitant for what it is. I'm surprised that based on last year's outcome, and then I can see how much work's been done in the meantime. So don't get me wrong on this one, but I'm a little surprised that there's not more sort of. Here's what we're going to be doing. Our proposal is, let's say, all of the units, and it's going to be this cost, and there's much more detail behind the sort of finite, the harder numbers on what it's going to take to actually move us forward with this piece, because without some of those pieces going, I'm not quite sure what you take to town again. I mean, what's the narrative? I mean, the other night about what's the narrative you tell the voters to say, last time in front of you, this was the contributing factor not for this thing not to be approved. This is what we've changed in the meantime. This is how we take this thing forward, and therefore you should vote for it because then it's the right thing to be doing.
Thanks, Anthony.
If I could just add a
Yeah,
comment to that and
please.
follow up, and this has really been the challenge that I've been explaining, is we're trying to basically fit a round peg or square peg in a round hole, is we're trying to line up with our form of government and our timeline to town meeting while also looking at procurement. So the bids are only good for 45 days, so we can't get a bid back until the timeline of town meeting and the annual town election. So we worked backwards from that, and so we're just in this phase where we can't have anything closer than the dates that we have.
When are you gonna have the bid?
On April 10th is our date.
One of the things that also came up, and I think it's in our report, is that we talked to Christy about trying to have a fund for her for kind of emergency situations where maybe she can go out and buy a house or condos or whatever's available, which we know is not much. And so that you have that money. I don't quite know how you all could design that, but I feel like that'd be really good for you to have.
I mean, we've been talking about that for years.
Yeah, the hardest thing is it's more expensive to buy
Right, that's.
on the market, and there's less and less.
But I think about it because you're talking about like somebody's leases changing on you and you don't always know until the last minute, so.
Right. And I just think that's one of the things to touch on is the leases, is like we're seeing our lease, I mean, we've secured leases over the last several years, but newer leases, you're seeing about $3,500 for a 1-bedroom, $4,500 or more for a 2-bedroom, and about 6,000 or more, sometimes up to 10,000 for a 3-bedroom. So our ability to add new rentals isn't going to help. So the fact, if we do lose the Richmond units and other units, and we don't build these, we're actually gonna be negative, not a net.
Yeah, Jeremy's had his hand up. Jeremy, go ahead. You're muted, hun.
Sorry. 2 questions. Selection process and amount of subsidy. How do you select the person to get one of these apartments, and how much is the economic subsidy versus the market on the rental side?
So right now what we do is we have everybody on our wait list. When we hear of a housing opportunity or something opens up in our current stock, an email goes out to everybody so if you've requested a 2-bedroom and a 2-bedroom opens up, you're notified. When people respond back, if it's 1-to-1, so one person responds and we have 1 unit open, there's a match, we're good. If more than 1 person responds, then we would hold a lottery and see who would get that unit. We've had a couple of income qualifying units and some that are age restricted, so sometimes that dictates who the placement is. And then we also look at critical need, and that might be a high priority. So we had a DPW employee who lost his housing, he rose to the top of the list to go and find somebody else.
So it's a matching and then a lottery mechanism, effectively. And then how much is the rental subsidy, maybe broken down by bedroom, that this provides to the town employees?
Right, so there wouldn't be a subsidy provided, it would be the fair market value. If there's anything charged under fair market value, then that's a taxable benefit to the employee. So we would use the HUD's fair market value, or what we've recently learned that other employers do on the island is an appraisal of the property to set the fair market value. So we would look at both of those options.
So there effectively is not a subsidy, rather we are just expanding the rental stock on the island to provide a sort of a preference list for employees. It's really what you're doing.
And to be able to control the rental prices, where we saw 2 of the units that we've been renting for the last several years just went up, they've gone up 7% each of the last 2 years. And then that gets transferred on to our employees. So having something that we can negotiate the terms and have a more stable increase that maybe matches their cost of living adjustments,
But that doesn't then mirror the market. You are actually muting the market increase. If I
But,
understood you correctly.
So the housing and urban development releases the fair market value. And that usually is going up about 1.5% to 3% a year. It's not seeing the 8 to 15% increases that some market prices are seeing.
And I have one final question. If somebody is a municipal employee and they have such housing, and then they lose their job, leave their job, do they lose their housing?
Yes, so what we have is a license agreement with the employee. So we have, if it's in a unit that we lease, we have a lease with the homeowner and then a license agreement with the employee. And they have a term in there that they would have 30 days, once the end of.
So has there ever been any conversation that this might be similar to serfdom, where the employer, in this case, the town, has a lot of power over the employee in that they control their housing as well as their job?
I don't do many other employees on the island.
It's pretty every employer.
Welcome to Nantucket.
Yes. This is
Sorry,
not-
I just thank you for your answers.
Christy, I have a question about the bid.
Wait, Joe has his.
Okay, sorry.
Joe.
I have two things. Number one, can you imagine sitting down to interview someone for a job and telling them you should not expect to ever own a house unless your parents can give you a couple $1 million or you have a couple $1 million? That's a tough sell. And that's going to affect the town's ability to hire. We're not talking about the police right now, I don't think, but we're talking about teachers and
So we house
and
police,
police,
we have
okay,
police, fire,
and
OIA.
administrators. And I just think that it's tough enough to be on an island that is not the most exciting place in the world in January and February, but to tell people that you're not going to be able to have a house, you're not going to be able to own a house unless you can come up with, if you want 2 kids, $3 million is where you start.
That's not part of the interview, you know.
But
In reality,
but from a practical standpoint, it's not a great sale.
well,
You're
I
not
was
wrong,
gonna
Joe,
change-
can I just respond, Joe, you're not wrong, but I think you're kind of identifying a different.
Pardon?
You're not wrong, but you're kind of identifying a different issue. Them being able to live in town employee housing is also not going to get them a $2 million house.
No, I agree, but it's better than being able to having to rent on their own and move whenever the person who's renting decides they're not gonna rent anymore.
The shop.
Yeah,
Better than that.
the instability is.
Yeah.
horrible.
Is John DeGiorgio still on? Yes, John.
Yes.
May I ask you a question?
Hey,
Yes, go ahead.
What would be required for Nantucket to do a P3, i.e. to do a joint venture with a builder and end up?
So, yeah, I was anticipating having to address that question, Joe. And let me start by saying that the term P3 means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. As you know, it stands for public-private partnership. When you read the Capcom report, where they recommend exploring the P3 option, I believe the report specifically references Tacoma Green as an example. So in Tacoma Green, the town owned a parcel of land. It issued an RFP, brought in a developer, gave that developer, I believe, a 99-year lease, which is the equivalent of a fee interest in the property. And that developer built housing in accordance with the land development agreement and the affordable housing restriction that the town retained. If that's what you mean by a P3 project, then I think that's problematic from a procurement standpoint. And I say that because unlike Tacoma Green, the town is going to want to maintain some controlling interest, I would think, in the property, would want to be able to set rents and not leave that to not the whim, but the discretion of the person developing the property. And of course, you would have to give them a very long-term lease, at least a 99-year lease, or perhaps you would convey the property. So you would lose a great deal of control over the project. Now, even if you wanted to do a P3 without conveying the property, it would require special legislation. And that special legislation would include a number of things that would make the cost of this project just as expensive as if you did it yourself. You'd have to pay prevailing wages. You'd have to do a project labor agreement. Those are things that the legislature would require that you include. And so you quickly lose any economic benefit, if you will, from doing a P3. One of the options that you could think about that is not a P3, and I don't know, Christy, whether your people have looked at this, but our island home is being bid as a CMAR project, construction manager at risk. And I don't know if this would be appropriate for that, but you might want to ask your OPM to take a look at that. The advantage of a construction manager at risk procurement is that the risk falls on the contractor that the town hires in terms of cost overruns. But to do a quote unquote P3 in the traditional sense would most likely in this instance require special legislation with all of the attendant additional costs that come with that.
But you're saying that because of it's for municipal employees, because we're giving that, the town is giving that specifically to specific people.
That's correct.
Tacoma Green they have flexibility and we don't
And
control the
Tacoma
rents
Green
that
is
they
through a
have.
law.
No, the only thing you have to do at Tacoma Green is follow, the state's requirements for housing preferences and that kind of thing. But you're not actually you don't control that at all. That's up to the developer. Whereas here, you want to control who gets those apartments and at what rent.
Can I ask you a question about that? Are you all going to look at leasing some of those units at Tacoma Green?
So Tacoma Green has 55 out of the 64 units are income restricted, and so those will be awarded through lottery. There's 9 market rate units. And so
I thought they had more than that. Okay.
No, so we've requested that there be an option for municipal employees. But that's right. The leasing point will be there. One thing, and Brian can correct me around construction manager at risk with this project, is that it's modular, so I don't think that we could do that. Brian has his hand raised.
Well, Brian, you can jump in.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. To answer the question, we did talk to John Lemieux, who had to jump off the meeting, about doing this project. But one of the first steps that you would have to do with CMR at risk is we have to apply to the Office of the Inspector General. They have to approve the usage of it. And it does have a minimum construction cost of $5 million. And so since we were uncertain as we started the process, if or what the construction cost actually would be, we were not sure if it would clear that threshold. And John Lemieux and Vertex have been involved in numerous modular constructions projects, and he said that on housing he's not seen CMR at risk be done. So we did not pursue it, but we did talk about it internally to see if it was an option, because as John correctly pointed out, we are using it on the Island Home project.
Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Jill. I have a question for Christie through you. If they have an understanding of the 40 people on the wait list, how many of those have a preference for a one-bedroom unit rather than a multi-bedroom unit?
18 are requesting a 1 bedroom. And then, the rest are between 2 and 3 bedrooms.
Sorry, the audio got stepped on a little bit. Did you say
Oh, 18.
18, okay, thanks.
We restrict, you have to have 3 people to have 3 bedrooms or anything like that.
We try to match as much as possible, and especially as family sizes change, we try to change housing. We recently moved somebody from a 1 bedroom to a 2 bedroom. But ultimately, sometimes it depends, like if you have a pet and we only have 1 pet friendly and it's a 2 bedroom and you're a couple, you get the 2 bedroom.
But
Because
if I wanted to have a a music studio and a movie room, and I wanted to do it myself,
there would be preference to go to a family.
Okay.
Yeah, the challenge there is you have to pay fair market rent.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
one person typically can't afford 3 bedrooms or 2 bedrooms.
Correct.
Exactly.
Right. I have a question about the bid. Did you, because I'm kind of stuck on the $7 million. So when you put this out to bid, did you also put out to bid the whole project? Because I would really like to see the comparison of building everything at once versus building the 2 units.
I'm gonna let Brian Turbot answer this. And
Come on, Brian.
All right, Brian, you're up.
That's the question.
So it's a really interesting idea, actually. And so the design firm is going to come on board and we're going to get the bid out very quickly. And it's not, the bid is being written for the modular construction, so it has not actually gone out, but we still believe we can have it back in time for the town meeting. So there would be a way to do this, exactly what you are talking about, Joanna, which would be, we would put the base bid out to be the duplex and the 1 bedroom on the first lot. And we could then do, depending on what housing was gonna put on the other lots, we could incrementally do them as bid alternates so that we would be able to, let's go on the premise that the finance committee thought this was a great idea and the way we're going to structure the bid. So the 7 million made sense at this point to do it this way. We could structure bid alternates so that if they came back with enough room that we could continue down the list and award it and continue to develop other lots on it simultaneously. I do want to just point out one other thing too with the 7 million. I completely respect and understand the position of the finance committee, but the 7 million isn't just for the modular units. It's for the remainder of the design work that will need to be done and the construction oversight and the OPM work that is not been factored into or that the town does not have this funding for. We had used an article to be able to get the OPM on board to start this and then get the initial designer on board to get it out to bid, but there are still a lot of other costs that the town will incur as well, along with the modular design firm as well. So I just want to make sure that, because there's a lot of other costs in public procurement that we incur that are just not just the actual construction itself.
Right, well, that's a strong argument for bidding this out to more than these 2 units, because why would we want to pay this again going further down the road? I mean, I think that we have to look at this as more than 2 units if we're gonna fund this. I mean, it is, in my opinion, short-sighted.
We've owned this land since 2002.
And just to.
It's about time already.
A little bit,
On top
in
of that, there's gotta be
2020
some value in bidding out more units,
Right.
bidding out 5 all at once, you're gonna get a better price on everything.
So in 2024, we had asked for just the 3 million for design, project management. Brian can touch on this a little bit. That's when it was first coming on board. And that did not pass town meeting. So then we said, okay, we'll go for a larger chunk, and that did not pass the town meeting threshold.
Yeah,
So
they're responding.
we've
to
tried a
what
lot
we're
of
telling them.
different approaches.
Yeah,
But
but just to follow on that, and for better or worse, I think some of that is because there's a little confusion around people who think we have voted for affordable housing money. And I think that is really the narrative that you are up against. That people think we voted for this override every year, it goes up a little bit every year, and now the town says, well, actually, we need more. And you do, I mean, that's just a fact, but I think that's gonna be the hurdle.
And that's what we've been really trying to explain.
That's why I think you
about
got
this.
smaller and decided, well, let's chip away at it in a smaller way.
Well, and I
they
think
respect
what's,
that.
what's really confusing is people see Tacoma Green and they say, why can't that be municipal employee housing? And that's community housing awarded through a lottery.
And
So
that
while
lease, and
some
the
of
lease
us,
to them was, I think, for $1 a year.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say something very similar to what Jill just said, which is that I think this is gonna depend on the story that you tell at the town meeting, and I think the story can be combination of what we have just said here, right? If we do this, the results are this. If we do this, the results are this, and we save X. If we do this, the results are this, and we save X and Y. And then you make the larger investment make better sense than the singular investment. And I think your statistics of the 40 people and replacing these leases, I think these are compelling reasons. You just have to be able to communicate this in a way that people can understand. And I'm with Jill, if people have this perception that we have spent an enormous amount of money on affordable housing and that we don't have a lot of results. So I think you have to find some way to explain that this money got us here and now we have to go here.
Jill,
Yes, Jeremy,
I have a finance question for Brian.
go for it.
Okay, so Brian, if $7 million here is for these 7 new homes, new dwellings, and a little bit of other stuff, and we know that the rent is going to be roughly market, that seems to me, as I do my rough math from what I've heard, about a 6% current yield, maybe a little bit higher current yield of the rent divided by the capital. And it's probably, when you do the other stuff and you somehow take it out, you're probably at a 7% current yield. Well, that doesn't sound like a tremendous subsidy, but rather it's, the town has borrowing capacity. They're providing the required capital here at in a way that it isn't a subsidy, but the individuals can't get access to that capital. And so you really, if you present this story correctly, if I think I'm hearing it right, the renters, the employees are actually paying for the cost of capital that's being provided. It's not just a subsidy in any form of either the capital providing or the ongoing rent. And I don't think that story comes out clearly here. And so I think Joanna's correct and Jill are correct that there's a lot of conflation of a lot of other issues. And so when you tell your story, and Brian, I'd love you to comment on this if I am right. I think you really got to get the numbers correct, because it doesn't initially come through that there is no subsidy and there is no alternative use because we're providing it to a select group of employees. And the market rates more than compensate the town for the less than $7 million of capital that's being put up. Anyway, I think that's what I hear, Brian. Am I correct or not?
I think that the way that I would answer that, Jeremy, is that some of what you are using to calculate that is a policy decision on whether the board wants to use the rent to offset the debt, right? Because that's how you're coming to your current yield, because you're taking that estimated income and dividing it by the investment. And I'm not entirely, that's a policy decision that the board would make. So
but it's also a finance reality, right?
Well, only to the extent that the rent would be used to offset the cost of that capital, right? If it's not used to offset the capital, then I don't know that the calculation works the way that you're looking at it.
So then if that is in fact the case, there's an additive policy overlay we have not discussed today that seems like we really need, or the voters need to thoroughly understand. Otherwise, it's a complete black box with an unknown subsidy.
Well, because to me, the logical choice so that there's not a lot of cost implications into the future would be that the rent be put into the revolving fund that has been created to account for repairs and maintenance on the units that are built. So I think it's a policy decision that has to be made on how they want to do, what they would want to do when the project is ultimately successful and constructed. So I guess that's the way I would observe that to you.
I think there are two things here. There's number one, there's the buckets, which is the way the municipal accounting works. But in terms of cash on cash, I think you're right. I don't know whether your numbers are right, but I think in terms of cash in and cash out, you're right. And Brian's talking about the actual application of the dollars that are received in rent and what his ability is to do with those dollars.
Well, I just want to add to that. It's fine for us to talk about that, but I personally just don't think anybody at town meeting is really gonna get into that.
Correct.
That's really for the town administration to decide. So fine for you to know. What we're trying to figure out here is what do we want to do with this project and how we can best help Christy with what she's trying to do. It's a big challenge, and I don't want you to get set up to fail again. So that's what I'm most concerned about, right? Like, I don't want to see that. There are a lot of debt exclusions. There are a lot of needs. There's a lot of capital. Our Island Home sucks a lot of energy out of the conversation for a lot of debt exclusions. Just being very honest about that. And so that's where I think you're getting a little hurt. And that's, it bothers me. Peter?
I would just like to be refreshed on what we're actually voting for, what the article actually is.
It says $7 million, but they're probably gonna have to.
$7 million to build 7 buildings.
So I have a question for Brian too. How much, he talked about some costs that are non-construction costs for this. How much is that of the 7 million?
Well, OPM's with 10% or something.
So it's a great question, Martin, but we,
The answer right now, but I think you need to know that because that has multiple effects across this project.
well, OPM costs generally in total average about anywhere from, I would say, for us, anywhere from 8.5% to 10.5% of the total construction price, give or take, depending on the complexity of the project. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it's generally what we've seen. And then the construction service and the engineering services for this project would be wrapped into the general construction bid or general contractor bid for the modular designer, because under modular construction, the designer that we're getting ready to ultimately award to is only responsible for the design of the box and the layout on the site of the buildings, and the modular developer typically takes over all design and engineering and oversight of the project after that. So it's typically included into that bid. So typically construction services from an engineering standpoint are usually anywhere between probably for us 6.5% to 9.5% of the building projects that we see. So that's a range. Every project is different in terms of complexity and what that ultimately looks like, but that's a rough idea.
20% is what that comes out to overall.
Potentially, but again, it depends on the complexity of the project, and obviously, to Joanna's previous point, if we did this as a bid alternate and we're able to get more units, we have a better cost across the whole and performance along it, and save some money in future development. So,
Can you remind us too, how many units are at Orange Street and when you think those are coming online and the makeup market rate?
So all of the units at Orange Street will be income restricted, awarded through lottery.
Yeah.
That has 29 units. And then Bartlett Road is an additional 11. Sorry, it's 28 and 12 for a total of 40. They're still going through their capital financing, but their hope is to pull building permits by the end of 2027.
So 64 units at Tacoma Green. 40 units between Orange Street and Barton. Yeah. So we're looking at over 100 units coming on in the next 3 years. Maybe less.
And Sparks Ave, has 8 restricted units, the 32.
Oh, here, that's what I asked about.
And then you're losing the ones from Richmond Group.
And I would just suggest the rent is rather subsidized, because you're setting a rental rate. When you say it's a market rate, you're not gonna be charging $7,500 a room, that's an example.
Correct.
So there is a subsidy of some, so it's hard, probably impossible to measure.
If I may, Chair, I mean, just to add a little bit to this conversation. We talk about, let's say, with Tacoma Green, Orange, the 100 units coming online. At the end of the day, how many of those realistically land up being used effectively for employee housing? And so it's not like we know there's this great lot coming on. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having a conversation about spending right now. That's this to stick with that $7 million number for 3 units that yield 7 bedrooms. And I honestly think, when I just listen back to how long this has been going on originally, 2002, it's either side 2024, 2025, now coming into 26 town meeting. I think if the team goes to town meeting without real clarity around, here's what we're really spending, here's what we're really going to yield with this investment, what our plan actually is. Because if I'm sitting on there as a taxpayer on the other side of that, and I listen to a discussion that says we're going to spend potentially around, let's say, $7 million to build the following. And once that happens in the next, let's say it comes online within a year and a half, and then we're going to have a great idea as to how we can expand that out. By then, inflation's taken place. The cost of the $7 million for the next 3 units will be $9 million. And we have to go back and say, well, we weren't quite right on this piece, so we're going to now add even more money. I think the bigger picture needs to be played out. I think the bigger picture needs to be placed in front of the overall sort of a general narrative here, which is, this is the plan, this is what we need to ask for, this is what it's going to take, given these experiences that we've learned over the last couple of years.
Thanks, Sandy.
And it's cheaper. There's cost savings in doing more. I think that's, I mean,
Yeah, they know that.
I know, I mean.
They do.
It's challenging with all the other
When,
projects that are coming
Keep
down.
plugging away.
if you, so go back again, if you had to guess, I'm not gonna hold you to this number, what do you think, who's building these, by the way? Who's gonna do it?
Oh, when we have the bids back, then we'll know who will build.
All right, okay. So what do you think it's gonna cost? Not you're putting $7 million to protect yourself. I fully understand this.
She doesn't know yet, Martin. I mean,
They don't
like, yeah, she just told you that the land bank stays over $2.5 million.
That's
I mean, I
fine,
got costs on top of that, but it sounds like it
That's
could
why
be
I-
encouraging, and she's being conservative with that estimate. I think that's why she put that number there, not because she was hoping it would come in higher.
Conservative could kill you in town meeting.
Yeah. That's why I agree with.
It
Joe.
can, but I mean, because of the town meeting calendar, they have to do that.
I have a hard time making a decision when we do not know the cost. And I would rather have a bid and something I can see. And I feel the same way about our island home.
Yes.
I will not make an opinion on our island home until I see the cost. Period, finished.
So you talk like we're hiding it from you. I mean, it's a matter of getting
Yeah,
it
exactly.
is the hardest part.
I think that we want our motions printed, so if you don't want to vote on it, I guess you don't have to, but we do.
I'm not worried about
okay.
having the motions printed.
Well, I think on the biggest legislative issue that we're looking at being our island home, I would suggest, because that is so important to the community. Yes, I do think we should have something printed, and we can always change it. In your case, if you would like us to wait until your bid comes back, because you're feeling, let's say, really confident it's gonna be less than $7 million, but it's still just 7 units. I still think it's gonna struggle.
That's what I do what Brian said. We need to get the other bids, like. I'm
That's
gonna
not what
vote.
they asked for, guys. That's not what we're doing. But
But he said we could still do that.
yeah, he can. Are you gonna be able to do that before May 4th?
It's already up to bid. You can't.
Well, if we're gonna get a bid, if we're gonna hopefully have the
You're gonna
bid
put
back
in the
for-
other units and just ask for him to give.
Yes, he hasn't even released, he hasn't even.
Yeah,
put
so
the-
we still expect we can get the bid for the first lot back. Within that bid, because I think the sites are similar, correct me if I'm wrong, Christine, we're likely gonna use the same design on the rest of those sites. We can add bid alternates in the order of priority into this so that we know. I mean, we did that with the dorm when we built the dorm. Now, we added a bid alternate for a second dormitory because we weren't sure if we were going to potentially ask at that time for the funding for a second dorm or if we were going to need it, but we did a bid alternate. So we can do this, we can employ the same exact methodology here with the bid alternate in order of priority so that get it back before town meeting, we can award one. We will have a better idea. We would also have a very good idea at that time of what OPM cost design construction services will cost, and we could potentially award more if town meeting is successful.
At a later time.
At the same time.
But you want to increase what you're asking for.
No,
Yeah.
no, what I'm saying is everybody is saying it's $1 million a bedroom for the 7 on the first lot, okay?
Yeah.
Add a bid alternate so that when it comes back, let's say the duplexes come in at 2.3 and
Yeah, and you get more units out of
we
this.
can get
amount.
more units out of the 7 million.
That's what I think is the reason.
May I make
That's what we can plan to do.
can
Okay,
we have a motion?
Joe, go ahead.
Can
Sorry.
we have a motion that we approve this subject to the cost that we get from the builder being less than $1 million a unit?
I think that'll be a
I
confusing
think we say
motion.
less than
for
7
town
million, but I don't
meeting.
think it's less than.
Hey, Jill,
That's
Jeremy.
$7 million about
Oh.
it.
I have a question for Brian because we're asking to create a project with a cost of 7 million, but the cost is a ton less than that to the town because you're going to receive rent and you're going to receive rent that is not 100% subsidized. And I know that municipal finance is different than the private sector, but voters are only getting half the picture here. And when these things get built out, years into the future, there will still be value. So it's not like $7 million is being spent and it's gone. And so I would argue for you, Brian, and the rest of the town involved in this, if you want to sell this thing, you can't just put the construction cost. You got to put the business model that's surrounding this $7 million. And I impute what that is, but you guys don't lay that out. And when you lay that out, it's not as draconian a situation as a straight $7 million, very expensive bedrooms.
Yeah, again, you're not listening to me, Jeremy, about what I said about how people feel about the money that they gave. So it's fine if Brian and Christy want to come back and say, oh, I'm giving you $70,000 a year in rent for this unit or that, but I don't think people care. They actually look at that, Jeremy, and they think, wow, these town employees are going to pay less than I do. And I work in the private sector. So I'm now subsidizing somebody to live in a unit that they're getting it less. And I understand why we want them to do that, but I really think this is a bad message at town meeting. I don't think we want that to get out there in that way. So I don't think you want to get granular, guys.
I've always felt that transparency and correct assessment is the right way to present things.
Of course.
And I know you don't want to, and I know we don't want to conflate this, but I got to tell you, it's confusing. Even the length of time we listen and then we talk, the full story is just not presented. Don't conflate it with affordable housing. Here is the true subsidy, whatever that may be, and we don't do that.
Joanna?
Libya.
Oh, sorry, Libby, I didn't see you. Go, please, town manager.
That's okay. I just raised my hand. I understand what you're saying, Jeremy, but we do not have a business model for this project with respect to rents and subsidies and all of that. It is considered a business expense to house municipal employees in order to run the town. The rents are not going to go, most likely, to pay off the debt. They are going to go into a fund that will maintain the facilities. That's how all of the other municipal housing that the town owns works with the rent. So I don't think it's going to be accurate to try to convince the voters that there's going to be some offset by the rent. There won't be with the debt.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we've had a lot of good discussion and this has been great and thank you because it's ongoing and we know we're gonna see you again. So
After.
is there a will of the committee to do something? I want to remind everybody too, it's not really our job to solve this problem. You know, we are given, this is what we've been asked to look at in this way. And if you want to, I think the idea of having the build alternate is great. So that would be a great, I think, amendment or additional information that we could access, but. And I love that we all have ideas. I want to throw them out there. Believe me, I really want you to get that fund. I mean, we all have our own like, or we want people to go to, I'll file it. It's
Right,
We
so
want all
let me
this.
ask you a question. So if we made a positive motion, can we put the directive on the positive motion to the build additions?
That's a Brian question.
I will, or Giorgio,
I'm sorry, what was the question?
to add more.
If we make a positive motion on this, can we give it the caveat of it proceeds with the additional units?
Well, can't you just build the additional units anyway? I mean, we're just.
If we got 7 million of funding, we could build the additional units.
Yeah, and we don't have to say how
We
many.
wouldn't need to put a
Just tell
caveat
people
on
to
there.
know if they have more units.
Yeah, but I think that to the story that she's trying to tell and build, we don't want people to think that it's $1 million a bedroom. So if we're saying we vote yes for this money,
Right, now,
where's,
you mean if it's now,
yes,
but
we
if
make-
it comes back and you say it's 10 units, I mean, does that make you feel better?
it does. I mean, it's less than $1 million a bedroom. Like for 7 bedrooms, $1 million is too much money. This idea of being able to build additional units saves us money in the bigger picture. Because we've invested in the OPM costs, we've done the design planning, and we're getting more bang for the dollars.
Could you just add that as a comment? At
We-
the,
I think we're gonna need to make a comment. I think we can just do our motion based on that when it comes back and then say, hey, it's
Oh, so
actually
you're
10
saying
bedrooms.
wait.
Well,
So
If you want to wait, if you all want to approve this, if you want to make a positive motion, then I think that is the way to do it. Then you should wait till
Yeah,
it comes
if
back and
someone
if the
could
7
stand up-
units becomes 10. But at that point, if those 7 units are just 7, then you might not make a positive motion. I
But
don't know.
if someone could stand up at town meeting and say, we can build 9 units with this, because you get a bids, by then you have the bids in, you know what the world's like. I think we're on the.
So if I may, Madam Chair,
John, please.
so if the Finance Committee were to make a motion tonight to recommend approval at a cost of $7 million, okay? And the bids come in, that gets printed in your book. When the bids come in, you can always reconsider that recommendation and make a technical amendment, which could potentially be take no action.
I don't think that really looks good for the town to do it that way. I hear you, but then it's like, oh, we were positive and now we're negative. I mean.
I would rather do nothing right now than do that.
Sorry.
Okay. No,
It's
John,
okay,
sorry.
John, it's an
No, you're right.
alternative.
You're right. I mean, maybe I'm overthinking it. So it's really the will of the committee. I personally don't think the project's quite ready, so I'm not gonna
Yeah.
support it. I didn't support it capital. I'm being
Let's see what
consistent.
happens. I move that we approve the project.
I second
Okay, on your motion, Joe? Do you want to discuss the motion?
Well, I want, there needs to be the caveat of this additional unit.
But they don't need
Well,
a
you can
copy.
make a motion later if you want to change your motion from, if this passes, it's a positive motion, and you want to change it to a negative motion, you could do that after the bids are. You could do that. I mean, we would have to do it like on the day. I don't think we're gonna have any meetings in April.
No, I want to do what we were talking about before, where there's a note to this that says the additional units have to be bid out as part of the $7 million.
Well, I think he's doing that.
They're gonna do
I'm
that.
gonna do that automatic by default, Joanna. It's
We
not,
don't need to say it.
pardon me.
We don't need to say it.
No, we're gonna do that.
Okay.
That's, we understand that direction already from FinCom and we can do it, so we will do it automatically when we that.
We don't have that. No one's even gonna know.
it. Let's continue with the vote.
Okay, fine.
Okay, Joe, you're an aye?
Yes.
Chris has his hand up.
Oh, Chris, did you want to talk about the motion?
Yeah, I'm just saying, shouldn't we make a comment to that effect, that we're making a positive motion based on that understanding?
that this is, but to say what, that it's a positive motion for, how many units are you guys happy with? I mean, that's what you don't know the answer to.
At least 7.
So how many bedrooms are you happy with? Are you happy if it's at 8?
I mean,
Are you happy at 9? Are you happy at 10?
I mean,
Like-
first of all, I think we keep using bedroom and unit interchangeably, which is
Yeah.
super
It
confusing.
is bedroom, sorry, but.
Yeah, it's
just
3
saying-
units, it's 3 town employees. We're talking about housing, not 7, not 9, not 15.
Really?
The-
No, not necessarily, because one of the units has 3 bedrooms, so you don't know that the couple's not married. We don't know. That's why we want to give Christy the option. of-
Right, I'm just saying that unit and bedroom is definitely very
Right.
different measure.
Together.
I'm just saying, if we're gonna vote a positive motion based on an assurance from Brian, but not tell people that's what we're doing, it seems like we're leaving out a big piece of the story. I believe Brian, I'm not saying his assurance isn't totally valid. I'm just saying it would be useful information to the public that that's what we're basing our positive motion on.
Right, I mean, I should
$20 million.
decide how many, it sounds like the committee's not happy with 7 bedrooms, right? So how many bedrooms are you happy with? That's what you have to decide now and say, if that bid comes in and it's gonna be 10 bedrooms, we're good and we want it to be positive.
We're as happy with as many as we
So
can
you,
get.
yeah, that's correct.
There's no, other than that, as many as we can get.
So you're happy at 8?
$7 million.
Yeah, if we have, if that's the number, the most we can get is 8.
I'm happy at 8.
I would be, I want more.
I agree with that.
But you can only stretch the money so far.
Correct, so that's, I mean, but that's an argument for delaying the vote until we get the, until we
So
get the. amendment.
positive motion, at least 7 bedrooms.
Well, we're in the middle
we
of the
can't
motion.
say that.
We either have to.
We
Don't they
can't.
come in groups of 7? Like, how do you add a bedroom?
You would add a 3,
We
want
want
a
to
duplex
do
size,
it.
it'd be a 3-bedroom.
Wheels
rather
this
than
time though.
2.
It would be a little bit of a redesign of what you have though, especially if you're only adding 1. But yeah, somehow you. Okay, let's just keep going with his positive motion, and this is a positive motion in my view for 7 bedrooms at $7 million, which is what Christie brought. Okay, this is not a positive motion for,
Okay, that's fine.
right? Okay,
But you're saying that we will have an opportunity if I want to change this vote later,
Yeah.
because
you
7
can do that on the
bedrooms
day
is
and
too
they'll
little
project
for
it
me.
up
Well,
there
then,
to
well,
say, yeah,
Okay.
well, you won't need a minute if it's a positive motion. If this motion doesn't pass, yes, then go back.
And Jill, how many employees is 7 bedrooms?
Potentially 7 employees.
It's a maximum.
Potentially
We don't know.
14. What if we have 2 employees in each
No.
room?
It's a maximum of 7 employees with 7 bedrooms, and I mean, there's 40 people waiting, 18 for 1 bedroom. We're not addressing the issue overall. So for me, I struggle to support this at this stage.
It's also not adding more units to the housing stock. It's trying to help her get rid of the leases that she has. So I just want to be clear with that.
Yeah.
Because, and I say all those things just because you know that'll all come out in a town meeting. Okay. Joe,
Wait,
is it,
So can you please explain though, so that I'm clear on this? If we all vote yes and this passes and the bids come in and it's only 7, we can only get 7 bedrooms
Yeah.
and I can come back to this group and I can say, I want to.
you can
what?
always come back and make a motion to change it, but we just said we didn't really want to do that because that sends a mixed message to town meeting. You can do it. You can do it.
Well, and 7 is better than nothing. If the choice is gonna
7
be,
better than nothing.
yeah, if the choice is gonna be 7.
Anthony doesn't agree with that.
I don't either.
Well, he doesn't have to. I mean,
Again, we're a fiscal advisory committee.
Right.
I think. Madam Chair,
Oh, sorry,
if I
John.
may, if that's what the maker of the motion wants, it would take the form, I think, maybe on the night of town meeting before it starts, a motion to reconsider. And that requires that motion be made by someone on the prevailing side.
Right.
So if Joanna votes in favor of
Yeah.
this motion, then she could make a motion to reconsider at a subsequent FinCom meeting and ask the FinCom to change its vote.
Okay,
I've done that.
yep, okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, I have to write everybody's names down again. It's just one of our only complicated votes.
Really complicated.
So where are we on the vote?
Okay, so Joe has made a motion, it's on the table, is to approve as it is written,
$7 million.
$7 million for 7 bedrooms.
I seconded it and Joe and I both voted aye.
Yep, Joe is an aye. Peter is an aye.
Martin's and I.
Martin's an aye.
Joanna's and I.
Joanna's an aye. Anthony? Did I lose Anthony?
No, he's thinking
No,
about
no,
it.
no.
I mean,
I'm a no.
I struggle.
I'll
Yeah.
just say no, okay?
I'm a no.
Yeah.
Wait, was that Rob?
I'm a no.
Chris?
This whole topic is just one of comparing horrible alternatives. I mean, I deal with it all day, every day. I'm an aye.
Okay, yeah, aye. And Anthony?
I know.
Okay. Oh, Jeremy. Jeremy, I'm so sorry.
Jeremy?
Jeremy, did you vote?
Not yet.
Well, let's hear it.
Okay,
We're
vote.
waiting.
It's your turn.
I'm a no.
So that passes though, because that's 5-4. Yeah,
We're passing.
it's a positive motion, 5-4.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
We got a lot of work before May 4th.
You better get some more bedrooms.
Give you a call on April 4th.
Please do.
I appreciate your support.
Good luck.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
This is one of those things that's like knocking your head against the wall, but it feels good when you stop it, you know?
Oh, we still have.
Yeah, you still need to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we have
Affordable
to do
housing. You're good.
Yeah, we already have 4.
Okay, what's next?
We have to do.
Where's the
Am I right? Oh, yeah, okay, that's correct. That's correct.
Yes, next, so that was 13, and now we're going to 65, which is the affordable housing property tax exemption.
We're gonna switch hats here. We're gonna talk about affordable housing. So this article, is also referred to as the good landlord tax exemption. This is going to be, an acceptance of Massachusetts general law, that was written into law in 2024. And then towns have the option to opt in. And what this does is it provides a tax abatement to landlords who are already renting year round at an affordable rate. So what landlords would do, and this is already in existence in Harwich and in Provincetown, is they would submit a form, hand it into the assessor that basically says that they're renting a copy of their lease and would show that their tenant income qualifies at a rate below 150% of area median income. And then the assessor would provide a tax abatement. It's basically an award for renting year round.
Who decides whether the rent is fair?
So it's set based on area median income. So the Affordable Housing Trust has recommended that the rent not be higher than, looking to Dylan on the call, I should have printed it out for me. That the rent not be higher than 100% of area median income, and the income of the tenant not be higher than 150%. And the reason we do that is just so that the tenants don't get excluded.
Dylan has his hand raised. Dylan?
I was just jumping in to provide context, but I think Christy's got it.
Perfect. So this has been something that the trust has considered. We've worked with Rob Brandy, our assessor, to make sure that it's compatible and be able to be implemented by Nantucket, and this wouldn't go into effect until the next fiscal year. So it'd be FY28 that this would go into effect.
And the credit is property tax, local. And,
It's an abatement.
yeah, where's the money? Somebody's not getting money.
No, it's just a reduction of their
It's
tax
a
bill.
reduction, okay.
It's just the homeowners getting value for
Yeah.
renting because somebody is at 150% of AMI. So it's not going up to 250% of AMI.
It is not, because we wanted to have something that's very clearly easy to find, and all of these numbers are published by both HUD, Housing and Urban Development, as well as Mass Housing.
Yeah.
Versus Nantucket calculates
Yeah.
240%.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
Motion to.
What is the benefit of adopting this to the landlord? What's their tax benefit?
It depends on the square footage of their house. If it's under 500 square feet, it's Dylan, $1,500. There's Dylan's hand.
Tiny house.
Through you, Madam Chair. So if the room is under 500 square feet, so the space being rented, if it's under 500 square feet, it's $1,000. Anything over 500 square feet is $1,500 per year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Second.
On your motion, Peter,
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Joanna? Anthony?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
And Jill's and I. Great.
Dylan gets the easy ones.
Okay.
And then the next article is an amendment to the Declaration of the Affordable Housing Trust. In 2024, the Affordable Homes Act was signed into law. And this created the seasonal communities designation, which Nantucket opted into at last year's town meeting. And the regulations for seasonal communities was just released, and they allow housing up to 250% of area median income, which is 2.5 times our local area median income. And right now, our affordable housing trust only goes up to 240%. So this is just aligning us with the state definition, so there's no confusion between programs. And there'll also be a zoning article to reflect the change in the definition as well.
Essentially, we went from 240% to 250%. That's all we're voting on right now, essentially. Motion to adopt.
Second.
On your motion, Peter,
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Joanna? Aye. Anthony?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
And Jill's and I. Okay,
That's all.
that
that
was really just,
I appreciate it.
you bet.
Thank you,
Hopefully
Christine.
guys have a good time.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Me too.
David, thanks for waiting, and sorry that. I'm sorry that we don't have coffee here for you.
No. Luckily, I have a pretty good contingency behind me, making all.
They wake up there all the time.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want, are you gonna pull up his slides
I
that he
can,
had around?
if
Do you
that-
want him to? Or
If
do you
that's,
want
yeah,
him
no,
to
I
talk?
think Dan was anticipate possibly sharing his screen.
Okay, great.
And Sheehan.
I can do that.
Do it. Hi, Dan, welcome.
Hello, thank you.
We have quite a group of folks from Weston and Sampson on board.
Excellent.
Kevin Manuel's on board as probably one of our project managers, and who else is on there as far as our team goes? I think that's about it, but I can let, Ziad is also on board from Apex as well, one of our other consultants, so. Dan, I'm gonna let you take the,
Okay,
go ahead and start, right?
you guys see the screen okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, my name is Dan Sheehan. I'm with Weston Sampson Engineers. And with me is Kent Nichols. We'll be doing the presentation together. So we have try to keep a brief presentation for you, so we can get into your questions. So, that's just the cover slide, a brief agenda we're gonna be talking about. So here is the project overview for the Somerset Needs area. So quick history, back in 2004, Somerset area was identified as a needs area and recommended for soaring, mainly because of the nitrogen loadings to the local ponds, Hummock Pond and Myacomet Pond. And then again in 2014, there was an update done, and once again, Somerset was identified as a needs area for soaring. We are now in 2026 and trying to get this project approved through town meeting. So this map is the Somerset Needs area. We're going to have a combination of gravity sewer, low pressure sewer with grinder pumps. Gravity sewer is the light blue color. The orange color is grinder pumps with low pressure sewer. And then where the red square is the Bartlett Road, proposed Bartlett Road pump station, which will collect all the wastewater from Somerset as well as the future Hummock North and Hummock South needs areas, which will be tied into the top of Somerset Lane gravity sewer. Come down Somerset Lane, Raceway Drive, Bartlett to the pump station. From there, it'll be pumped down Bartlett Road to the newly installed gravity sewer on Surfside Road and go to the new Surfside Road pump station, which was built a couple of years ago. In addition, the dark blue is water mains. So we've coordinated with Wanacoma Water and Mark Willett. And since we're going to be repaving streets and doing the work, Mark is going to follow, go with us and install water mains in areas that do not have water. So you'll see some of those streets highlighted in dark blue. That's what water mains will be added. So we have about 15,000 feet of gravity sewer, 8,000 feet of low pressure sewer, 4,700 feet of a force main, new pump station, and 7,000 feet of water main. So that takes care of the sewer and the water portion of the project. Since we're going to be on Raceway Drive and Somerset Lane, we're also looking to combine some roadway drainage and multi-use path improvements in the project area as well, to try to get in, disturb the area once, and get out. The worst thing people want is to have multiple crews coming in multiple years in a row, continually digging up the neighborhoods. So the Raceway Drive project has been on the books for quite a while, and the town's been looking to get rid of the dangerous curve at Bartlett Road. But moving forward, that project was kind of on hold until the sewer project comes along, because the sewer lines are going to be fairly deep, and you're not going to be able to, you don't want to redo the roadway, they come back and dig it up and put sewer lines in. So what you'll see in this top part here is, this is Raceway Drive from Somerset down to Bartlett. We're proposing to soften the curve. You put a curve in here and then realign the bike path on where Bartlett Road connects to Raceway Drive. Currently, it's on the opposite side of the street. It's not really a bike path. It's more of a sidewalk that just stops right here at Somerset. So for safety purposes, we're connecting the bike path on the opposite side of the roadway to come up and connect to up here by Somerset Road and eventually up Somerset Lane, which you see at the bottom line here is the purple line. The chosen alternative for the town would be to stick on the southerly side of Somerset Lane and connect the bike path up to Hummock Pond Lane. So when the project's done, you'll be able to ride your bike down Bartlett Road, connect up and ride up Raceway Drive, and then straight across and go up the bike path along Somerset Lane to Hummock Pond Road. And then in addition to that, we're also going to be doing drainage improvements on Raceway Drive. Currently, there's a lot of flooding, localized flooding, so we're proposing to replace the drainage, and we're going to put an underground infiltration system over here at and they call it within the right of way of Bartlett Road, town-owned land, to take all the runoff from Bartlett Road, from Raceway Drive, and put it into the ground here. So this is kind of a cost breakdown. So we've got the major project components of sewer, water, raceway drainage and roadway, and Somerset Lane multi-use path. So we originally had a price tag for $43.3 million that would cover all these components except the Somerset Lane bike path. We had not come up with a number because this is more of a conceptual design at this point in time. But looking at other bike paths in town and coming up with a planning level figure, that bike path will be about $1.5 million on Somerset Lane. So that would bring this total project up to 44.8 million from 43.3. And then just for your information, sewer cost breakdown of the 36.8 million is broken down from pump station, the sewer pipes, surface restoration, which is paving. And you'll see that seems like an astronomical number, but that's one of the issues obviously in Nantucket with paving is your paving costs are very, very high. And that's why we want to get in and do everything one time and pave once and not come back and repave multiple times on these projects. Get traffic control, engineering services, and then a contingency fund for various things that come up during construction or bid pricing. So the town applied for the Clean Water Standard Road. Oops,
Sorry, Dan, do you mind holding just a second? I think Peter had a question for you.
Yeah, I have a question that could possibly help us pay for this. Every time, if we go forward in Nantucket and every time we build a bike path or tear up a road for sewers, we bury the power lines. That would be a big improvement and it wouldn't cost a lot more to do it. And we can get, I think we can get the power company to pay for part of that. Just a suggestion. I don't know whether we think about it, we thought about it before, we can't do it or what, but maybe Libby has a comment on that.
I do. The power company, first of all, I don't think there are any overhead lines on Somerset Lane. I'm not sure about Bartlett.
it stops at Marble Way, Libby, so all
Okay.
the electrical is underground here already.
It sounds really easy. Let's just put all the wires underground while we have the road open. But each utility, and there are typically at least three, National Grid, Verizon, and Comcast, all require their own conduit and their own individual engineering, and it takes a long time. They'll require probably the municipality to fund the engineering. And we've explored this quite a bit already with projects, and if they are far enough in advance, we can try to get them on board with it. But it all depends on the location and if they have sometimes they have underground vaults that are feeds to certain areas, and sometimes those just can't be moved, and they impact whether or not the wires can even be underground. I get that everybody right now is very hyped up about let's just put all the wires underground, but there are also issues with putting wires underground, and the beginning stages of it is very complicated.
Thank you, Libby.
All right, Dan, you want to keep going?
Sure. So the next slide, we're talking about funding of the program. So the town applied for the SRF loan program back in August and got terrific news last month that you did make the IUP, the intended use plan, which means you're eligible to receive full funding of the $36.8 million for the sewer portion of the project. Last year, you did not make the IUP when we tried to go for funding. This year, you made it. Funding is very difficult, has been very difficult to get the last couple of years. A lot of communities did not get funding or they did not get full funding. So this is really, really great news. And most importantly is that in 2026, the line item right here with zero potential for nutrient removal. As I said, the purpose of this project is nutrient removal to take nitrogen and phosphorus out of your ponds. So you are eligible for 0% financing for this project. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get it, but we have to submit an application in October to request 0% funding. But you'll see the three projects we were successful in getting 0% funding for on the Nantucket Harbor Shimo project, the Surfside Road Sewer Improvements Project, which included the new pump station I referenced, and the Surfside Treatment Plant Phase 1 Improvements Project. All three of these projects receive 0% financing.
Who provides that subsidy or that money?
That comes from the state and the federal government. So the revolving fund is basically interest payments that get made by people get turned back over into the program. But a lot of money is funded by the federal government. That's part of the reason why the funds are very tight this year is the government has restricted a lot of the funding for these types of programs. And if you don't get 0% funding, you have the potential for 1.5% for housing choice community. But if you don't get that, you'll get 2% is the standard interest rate for the SRF loan. Like I said, you are eligible for 0% and we would anticipate, but again, no guarantees of getting it. So this is the project timeline. So the next big date is town meeting. So in May, if the town does not appropriate the money for the project, then they are pulled off the IUP, and that 36.7 million or 36.8 million we'll be giving to the next community down on the list who did not make the draft IUP. So if you don't appropriate money now, you lose it, and you don't get you don't get the opportunity for 0% or even 2%. If you want to move forward with the project, you'd have to do it based on whatever Brian can get for interest. Someone had a hand raised.
Yeah, Joe.
Is it an opportunity? What are the odds that we would approve this and not get the 38 million?
You're gonna get the $38 million.
Pardon?
It's just the interest rate.
It's just the interest rate.
It's not the
That
money.
means zero. It's zero. If we don't get that, it's either 1.5% or 2%, somewhere in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
But-
the most we'd have to pay is 2%.
2%.
Okay.
Okay, but do you have up there like what we've already spent on this project? Cause I think that's really important for people to know.
Yeah, we'll get to that in the next slide. One of
Okay,
the
great,
next
yeah,
slides, I
cause
can
even
show
though
you.
we've already approved money, spent money, this is a project that's like.
Yeah, so we've already,
ongoing.
we're in the process of design. We just submitted 30% design plans and reviewed those with all the technical disciplines in town. And so, like I said, so the appropriation would have to be done in May to appropriate all the money for the project. And again, if you don't appropriate, then the money goes away and we'll have to reapply next year to try to get it. And again, no guarantees you're gonna get on the list even. And then we also have to have the election for the override that has to pass that as well. So assuming that all passes, the next date is the SRF application. That's when the final plans are submitted to DEP along with the loan application to get the loan and to submit the separate application for 0% financing. And typically that will find out sometime in January timeframe if we have that 0%. So we'd look to bid the job January. Construction begins in the spring of 27, and it's probably about a 2-year project in the spring of 29 before anyone's even ready to start connecting. So we're looking at 3 years from now before the first home will be able to connect. So this is the slide of the project costs and financial implications if we delay it. Again, availability of funding. Last year you didn't make the IUP, this year you did, no guarantee you'll be on it next year. We talked about the interest right now. As you can see, a 2% interest on 36.8 million is $8.2 million. That's a pretty significant chunk of change to bypass. And then I don't know what interest rates would be next year or the year after if you push it off a year and didn't have SRF, but looking at a 4% financing cost, that's about 17 million in interest. Obviously pushing the project off, you've seen that probably every project you folks have done on the island is material and labor costs always goes up. It doesn't seem to ever go down.
Excuse me.
Do they go up and down on other communities? I know we always complain about ours, but I've never seen a government contract ever go down.
Yeah. You're not gonna see it any cheaper. So, and then the other one was, this goes towards what's already been spent to date. So the town had appropriated $6.4 million for engineering and purchase of the pump station site. So I think you've spent approximately $5.6 million to date. You purchased the property at Bartlett Road, where the pump station is going. And then engineering OPM costs are also included in there.
Brian has his hand up. Brian?
Yeah, to answer your question, Madam Chair, to date, we've actually spent $3,385,000 and some change. The majority of that cost to date, obviously including engineering, OPM, and some OPR and legal services, but the majority of that was a little over 2.7 for the acquisition of the property to site the pump station for the project.
Okay, I thought that it was a little bit more. Okay. Yeah, gotcha. But that was significant because we bought that property for this project. I mean.
Right. And so on the right side, you'll see the other impacts is, you've already been delaying Raceway Drive roadway improvement.
And all the drainage there.
Drainage issues, as well as water mains. And then I'm sure most of you have driven on Somerset Lane. It doesn't look pretty. And you'd have to, Drew will have to keep patching that for the next, as it is, the next 3 years until the construction is done, so. And then the last item was the potential employee housing at 77 Bartlett Road. Right now, those two homes are not inhabitable because the septic system has failed. And the new pump station's going where the septic system is, so those kind of are sitting empty until either they're moved or employees get to move in when the pump station's built and sewer lines in.
Right.
Joe?
Joe, go ahead.
I'm looking at the 8.2 million in interest costs for the 2% financing.
Yep.
Is that's for the life of the deal, or?
Yeah, it's a 20-year loan.
Okay. So
the typical SRF loan.
the principal has to be repaid.
Yeah. Yes.
But the size of the override in the tax basis is only something like $800,000 a year. Am I right, Brian?
736, I think.
No, I mean, the authorization here, Joe, will be for 44.8 million, and then we have the 6.4 million that's already been authorized as borrowing. So the debt service is not going to be only 800,000 a year.
Okay.
Rob, did you have a question?
Yeah, but who ends up actually paying for this? Is it the town or is it the homeowners?
So I think the next slide for that is that right, Dan?
Okay, sorry if I'm jumping the gun.
No, that's fine, Rob. So it is going to be paid two ways. Well, more than two ways potentially, but the 6.4 million, well, it would all be an override, actually. Yes, that's correct. So yes, it'd be a potential override, and there is another slide with a potential funding source for a portion of the project. And the water company will be responsible for whatever the ultimate cost of the installation of the water main will be. So that would be through the water company. They would budget the debt service in their budget.
So the water costs will get distributed to all people on, yeah.
Yes.
And what about the rest of it?
Dan, do you want to keep? There is a slide. I think that
we can wait. Sure, thanks.
We'll get through that next. So this is just a slide. Like I said, the big opportunity is the 0%. So that's what I just wanted to reiterate that again. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Ken. So we'll start with a brief history of what we did for the Shimo project, and then we'll move into some of those things, Rob, you were just asking about.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. So it's the natural question. Anytime anyone's building sewers, one of the places that you usually get capital from is the actual property served. And the idea of that is, kind of a long-standing understanding that you're giving a specific benefit to those individual properties because now you're giving them something that is a piece of infrastructure by connecting them to the sewer that gives them a reliable long-term benefit. Essentially, the benefit they get means they no longer have to rely on a septic system, which they would have to periodically maintain and repair over time. So there is this idea that you should recover a portion of the capital costs from the actual property served. This kind of thought process, it's good to kind of rewind back to the last time we faced this. And curiously enough, it was 10 years ago, 2016 town meeting, when Nantucket last voted a major sewer extension project. Particularly under the comprehensive wastewater management planning process that Dan mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. Going into that town meeting, the finance committee and the board of selectmen had both kind of recommended a system of betterments. And betterments are basically charges directly to those served properties that recover a portion of the capital costs. One of the unique things about betterments is they tend to get liened. If you don't pay them off immediately, they tend to get liened against the property. They stay with the property, which is kind of a tried and true method based on Massachusetts law. It's been used by many communities. Curiously enough, at town meeting, the town meeting actually rejected the suggestion to go with a 25% betterment funding process for the project, and instead said this should just be paid for by taxes. And, just general history of things, that's just a marker point that we like to look at. Doesn't necessarily mean that the properties that were served didn't pay a significant portion of the
A
capital.
lot of those driveways are very long and they got very big bills. I know that.
That's
So,
right.
I
So,
understand.
yep, in addition to the costs of the sewer project, remember, people exactly have to also extend their own sewer services up their own driveways and do other things. But we did some of that in various places to make it as easy as we could. In the end, though, we also reworked a couple of fee systems that the town had been using at the time. There was an old capacity utilization fee and there was an old sewer privilege fee. Those were retooled in circa 2019, 2020. We finally put those back into place with what was now called a sewer capacity fee. So that sewer capacity fee on Shimo ended up collecting, I think that number, it was on the previous slide, was something like 15% of the capital costs in nature of what we spent on the sewer system. So you've got, for this project, yeah, there you go, 15%, approximately 15% was collected through sewer capacity fees. So you've got three options. The next slide kind of talks about kind of what your options are for generating some
Project
capital.
came in a lot well under what was authorized to borrow. Though.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, that project was authorized for around 41 million at town meeting, and Brian probably knows the number exactly, but I want to say it was like 22 million that we came in at, Brian. Something like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, construction, I think ultimately, was a little higher than that because I think the total was around 30 million that we borrowed because we rescinded about $9 million worth of the authorization at the end of the day.
Yeah, there was a lot of work done on it, and but the numbers were significantly lower. That 15% is from the actual expended amounts that we calculated that from. So, generally, we would suggest that you have three options, assuming your intention is to continue to try to recover some of the capital costs from the properties that are served. You've got essentially three options. One is you could continue to lean on the sewer capacity fee, and we'll talk about that more because the sewer capacity fee currently is running a little low and probably needs to be adjusted. So our thought process, if you do that, is you probably want to adjust the fee. Second thing you could do is use your current sewer capacity fee and assess a betterment. And that combination would give you a significant amount of ability to draw capital from the area. And then lastly, and this was talked about in prior areas too, you could do a betterment, but also waive for properties paying the betterment, you could then waive the sewer capacity fee. And so those are kind of thoughts that are in play right now. The expectation is that one of those three methods would be chosen to recover a significant portion of the capital cost of this project. So if you flip to the next slide.
I can just add about Shimo. I think one of the things that made that a little bit different is that people really wanted to do that to protect the harbor that everyone has access to. And I think this project is really surrounded by a lot of commercial properties that people use, but the land bank, I'm sure they're fertilizing a golf course, and the farm is having to use a lot of different chemicals, I'm sure, on the farmland. And I'm not sure about the brewery. Maybe they've got a little rye and whiskey out there, but
The screen here.
organic fertilizer is still fertilizer. And still has nitrogen in it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going.
So the where you're at right now, if you were to use the sewer capacity fee, the thought process would be pretty similar. Your current sewer capacity fee is a number that's 2032 per gallon per day. Essentially, that's based on how you would size the flow from a typical single family home. You already charge this for anyone connecting to the sewer, so that's not new. If we were to just keep that fee as is, you'd probably only collect somewhere on the order of, just under $3 million. The suggestion to get somewhere near 25% of the capital back from the served properties would be to get to this number of around $65 per gallon per day. That, by the way, is not an unreasonable number, even on the mainland. We see a lot of communities that are seeing that or greatly in excess of that as the cost to provide sewer service. The challenge is this still needs a little bit of tooling. The suggestion right now is that you would either do that with a highly adjusted sewer capacity fee, or you would leverage a betterment. And again, per the prior slide, You also have the option of doing both, some combination of both, with the intention of getting somewhere on this order of 25% of that number from the served properties. And if you see in the box on the right here, it kind of ballparks a number that's probably going to come up to somewhere between $20,000 to $25,000 per EDU, and EDU equivalent dwelling unit, essentially what accounts for a single family house equivalent.
Can you explain? I just don't understand the metric gallon per day. So what is?
Yeah. So this is based on the same way you would do a septic system design. It's a kind of a standard of the industry that we go with what a house is expected to contribute on a flow basis, and that's how you would do it. So the way Title V sets this up is a single family home is counted based on bedrooms, and bedrooms come in at 110 gallons per day per bedroom. So a 3-family home is considered on paper to contribute approximately, and it's essentially a max day flow, but 330 gallons a day. So a typical 3-bedroom home at 330 gallons per day would multiply that 330 times that 2032 to get their current number. And if you look, that's a pretty low number right now. That's, it's in the single digits of thousands. Versus
so that's per year.
No, that's actually this is a one-time charge. It's paid at the time of connection. And it's just, and the reason we use that gallon per day flow is strictly just to kind of gauge how much use of the sewer is going to happen. And that's important because it's different. If you had, somebody mentioned the commercial properties here. Commercial properties pay on a different basis. If they use a lot more water, they would pay a higher betterment based or a higher capacity fee based on those numbers being higher. So that's why we scale it all to that gallon per day. Likewise, if you have an 8-bedroom home, it's going to pay, a higher number than a 3-bedroom home. And this is on your books already. This policy was adopted back in 2020. It's been tried and true. It's consistent with what most other communities do. It's not the same as a betterment capacity fee. It does have some advantages and disadvantages. And I'm sure John, looks like you unmuted. So John Giorgio may have some thoughts on some of the explanation of that. John, you want to?
Yeah, no, again, I just wanted to clarify for the finance committee that while the betterment, the total would be between 20 and 25,000 paid at the time of connection, but there is an option for homeowners to pay that over the term, basically a 20-year period.
Yep. And John, just to fill that blank in a little bit more, that apportionment that's allowed under Mass law for betterments is paralleled with the way the town adopted the sewer capacity fee. So the town also allows that sewer capacity fee to be apportioned over time by paying some interest.
Right.
Joanna?
Question. So basically, if we adjusted the cost recovery rate to $65 and we're basing it on 350 gallons a day, that's around $22,000. So it comes in pretty much the same as a betterment. Right?
Yeah.
It's just two methods to collect roughly around the same amount of money.
Yeah, it just needs a little discussion. Brian will probably want to, and his hand, I see his hand up already. Brian will fill in the blanks a little bit, but there is a little subjectivity to how we use those fees that is important to understand. And the big thing is to try to decide how much money you want to recover from these individual served properties. But Brian, I'll let you kind of jump in and explain the nuance.
Did we say there was 422 homes that's affected by this?
440.
440. So all of them would be required to sign on to this.
Within 2 years.
Okay.
Well, they have to. If you bring sewer to your house, you have to do it.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Brian, did you want to?
Yeah, sure. I just, thank you, Madam Chair. So I did want to follow on kind of to what has been presented here, because Kent and I have had many discussions about this. Because when this was the sewer privilege fee, it originally was designed for only a very set area of 1,300 homes that were paying 1/3 of the cost of the upgrades to the sewer treatment plant, the original upgrade. We realized that there were a lot of other connections that were going to be happening, and we transitioned to this sewer capacity fee so that we would have a dedicated source of funding when connections were made to help offset the cost of the current debt service plus any future plans for upgrades to the treatment plant. So we've gone back and forth about this because the concern about applying all of this to this needs area is it would actually increase the cost of people outside of this needs area to offset the cost of the construction in a needs area that they're not in terms of this project. So we've talked about potentially doing an additional adjusting the base rate of 2032, adjusting it a little bit, because I do agree with Ken, it probably should come up slightly, but then having a subsequent fee for the needs area for Somerset Bartlett Road that would be on top of the number of 20, so maybe it's 85 in that area, so that what we could do is take the calculation at the 2032 and put that into what it was originally intended for, which was the upgrades to the sewer treatment plant. I think Ken agrees that that's what the fee was originally designed for. And that additional capacity fee of, if it was $65 per gallon per day, okay, that would be apportioned and applied to the cost paid by the 440 people in this area against the cost of this project, so that it's all one fee versus doing partially a betterment and the capacity fee. One of the reasons that I typically would prefer a betterment is because it goes on the lien and the betterment are issued within 6 months of project completion. Therefore, we're starting to collect the money sooner than the capacity fee, because that's billed at the time of connection. And I don't know, we can't envision how fast people are going to be rushing in to connect, if there's enough installers to do it in a very quick basis. So the betterment to me works a little bit better because it does start generating the offset and the reduction on the tax base for the payment of those costs. So there's a lot of nuances that we're still working through with that. When you do get to the vote, you'll see that with John Giorgio's help, we've written the motion in a way that would allow us to assess up to 25% of the cost through various methods, so that we have the flexibility as we continue to have that discussion and work through that.
Brian, can I ask a question? Did you have any problems collecting money from the Shimmer project?
You mean in terms of when they connected?
Yeah, and when you got
No, they all had a time frame to connect. It just is a matter of when you're apportioning a cost to this, if you don't get everybody connecting in a relatively faster manner, then it adds pressure on the debt exclusion until we've got everybody ramped up, which is why I'm saying with a betterment, it's added immediately, whether you connect on day one or it takes you 365 days. You're already paying the betterment after it's assessed, because it goes on the tax bill. If you don't connect for a year because of timing or whatever, then that's money we're not collecting for at least probably another year after that. So it eventually catches up, but it's just timing of what we're doing with the debt exclusion. That's all.
Yeah, but I'm just asking if you had that problem with Shimmo. We
didn't do a betterment we did not do a betterment to offset the cost in Shimmo. It was 100% on the tax base. As Ken said, we had proposed a betterment, and town meeting amended the article and took the betterment opportunity off the table.
And everyone's given 2 years. Once a line becomes available, it's 2 years according to regulation. But because Shimmer was so big, and possibly the same thing here, it was extended because there wasn't enough people to install all the sewers. So it was up to, some people took up to 3 years to connect.
Yeah.
But it's because of the amount of installers.
It's a huge project.
I remember people living there complaining quite strongly about it. So
You mean when they were here in the summer?
Yes, exactly.
That's right. Definitely. Rob?
Do we have any sense of what the serviced property's feeling about this is?
What the neighborhood is?
Yeah, do people want this? Have we polled them? Is there any data that shows whether they want it or don't want it?
I asked the select board that, and they said that they had gotten some comments from neighbors. I think there were, maybe Libby can speak to that, or Brooke's popping on. Maybe Brooke wants to.
Yeah, may I, Madam Chair?
Please.
Yeah, so I've had feedback from several neighbors who are very anxious for this sewer project to move forward. The only feedback I've gotten in the neighborhood is we've been waiting a very long time for this. And it's been on the radar, for quite some time, and I think they're excited about it. Now, does that answer the question of how much of it they're willing to pay for versus the tax base paying for it like Shimo? That question has not been posed, but there is definitely excitement in the community, in the neighborhood, about getting sewer.
Coming my way, and I'm delighted.
I have a question. Do we have any other projects right now that we're collecting betterments on?
They're
Well,
talking
she-
about betterments for
we-
the project.
But do we have
Joe,
any?
yes, Sheep Pond Road.
And then
That's like
the
people.
drainage on Tashma was also under a betterment that the neighborhood paid for, but it was.
Okay.
Chris.
Jill, same question as last time, negative recommendation from Capital Program Committee. Is there more information that's come forward around this latest discussion of the various ways that, because I know the comment from the Capital Program Committee was it should come forth with a way for the homeowners that benefit to participate, and we've had a pretty robust discussion around that. Is that new information, or is that information that Capcom had when they made that negative recommendation?
We didn't have as much information then. We just had sort of a broad conversation. We didn't have what Kent just went through because the select board really hadn't decided at that point whether, well, the select board was not going to put it on the warrant for a period of time there. They indicated that, and they indicated that to Capital, but that changed. And then they brought it back, and then they had their sewer master plan meeting,
Yeah, the
like
workshop.
in maybe January 23rd or something like that. Well, by that point, Chris, we had already done our rankings and we were finished. So I don't think there was appetite to go back.
So you think the potential is that it would have had a different outcome if you had the fullness of the information we have?
100%.
Okay.
And also you got to remember our rankings really reflect, like, does the select board want this? Well, at the time we didn't think they did. So that affects like 10% of how things get ranked. And it honestly was just a timing issue. Nobody was opposed to it. I mean, I think you remember you were in our meeting, David, and Don came in and said, I'm not sure we're gonna do it. And so it was just timing. I think everybody's really in favor of
The
it.
day we got hacked. too.
Oh, that's right. That was terrible.
Yeah.
That was another really bad hack on the Zoom.
Jill?
Yeah. Jeremy.
I have a question for Drew. If I understand this correctly, the $44 million project over 2 years will enhance the sewer for 440 homeowners. And if we put in a betterment, they'll pay for about a quarter of the cost. Now, how do we articulate the benefit to the community of the other 75% of this cost?
I don't think Drew's on it.
I think he was asking you, actually, David.
Am I asking the wrong person?
Yeah, it's not Drew in here. It's David Gray.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
It's gonna greatly improve a lot of the drainage issues that are out there,
Okay.
which have been quite significant over the years. The road that's degrading rapidly on Somerset Lane, and other areas, that this will all improve the traveled ways. And as we know, Raceway and Somerset is also a cut around for a lot of traffic. So it would greatly improve the traffic conditions that are currently going through there now.
yeah. But there really is a lot of nitrogen in that area.
There is a lot, and it's gonna protect our ponds, so.
Go ahead. So this is probably a question for Brian. In the larger picture, right? So if this is roughly $80 million, say, and the taxpayers are gonna pay for 25% of that, okay? Then what is the impact on the tax base with the borrowing? And then, like, if all of the other capital items pass,
You get the tax calculator.
right, well,
They have that up.
yes, but I want to have him answer the question.
But you can put in and know exactly what your taxes are gonna go up. Is that what you mean?
No, I mean, like overall for the whole town, so how much are we borrowing?
You're borrowing them.
Yep, so we ultimately, and I just put in the average single family home in only those two projects. So we're borrowing, it'll be close, well, it'll ultimately be just around 50 million with 3.1 million of it approximately to be paid for by the water company and the water users. But the amount to the tax base projected on the average single family home, which is valued a little over 1,878,000, eligible for the residential exemption, we are estimating now. At the time we built the calculator originally, Joanna, we did not have the cost for the bike pass, so I do have to go back and recalculate this. But the estimate right now is $69.03
A year.
per year. Now, I would also say to you, I would also make the comment that that doesn't account, that is without a betterment or the recalculation of the sewer privilege fee, the capacity fee. That's 100% calculation, because at the time we did this, we weren't at this allocation cost. So I'm just for full disclosure for you.
Oh, might go down
So it would likely go down, yes.
by a quarter if he does a better enough. $50. Basically. Okay. Okay. Brooke, or sorry, Libby, I don't know who went first. Sorry, guys.
I defer to Brooke.
Wow, that is so diplomatic of you.
I was just going to defer to you. So I think in terms of how we communicate to the community the value of this project, it's multiple things. Our watershed districts are important. Our ponds are important, and this is a contributing to, this contributes to the environmental health of the entire island to a great extent. Reducing nitrogen loading is why the state offers 0% funding, is because it's environmentally responsible behavior. When I think about it, and full disclosure, I live in this area, I think about the cost of replacing my septic versus contributing to the construction of the sewer project. I'm basically paying for an insurance policy that I won't have to replace my standard septic or an IA system, which is where, we're headed in a lot of areas, watershed districts and areas that are contributing to the environment. So I think that there's a narrative to both those of us who will be directly impacted by a betterment or an increased privilege fee or whatever direction we go, as well as the general environmental responsibility that we have as a community for protecting our ponds and waterways. And I think what Jill said before about everybody imagines that they use the harbor and Shimo, having the taxpayers pay for it. Well, that was a different environment in terms of capital project demands on the voters and the tax base. So we're in a different conversation, having a different discussion or making a different case today than we were back then. But there's broad community benefit for this project, especially when we get to the extended areas, Hummock Pond North and South. And I think there's a good case to be made for this as a community-wide benefit, as well as an insurance policy for the homeowners in the neighborhood against future septic costs.
Motion? Yep.
Yeah, is everybody ready? Wow. You guys don't want to, you don't want to talk about it?
I move, we were talking about it for an hour.
Yeah.
I move we are approved.
Second.
Recommended move.
Great. On your motion, Joe.
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Joanna? Aye. Anthony?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Chris?
Just confirming it's a motion to approve, correct?
Yes, it is.
Because
Chris.
the audio was a little funky. Okay,
Yeah, sorry.
aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Jill's and I got everybody right. Wow. Great.
Yeah.
Awesome, David, well done.
Oh, thank you, everyone. It's been a team
Just
effort.
love bearing you with more work.
It's been such a team effort, and I can't say enough to Libby and Brian and those groups that
They're
we've done
really
a lot.
diligent
We've
with
really
everything
met-
that you did in January. I think it was really good. I know Brooke was really adamant to go back and talk about it. It was,
the whole group has been great to work with us, and as with everyone else here too, so.
thank you. Okay, we've got Article 26. Brian, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Did we lose him?
No, we shouldn't.
He's muted.
I'm muted. I'm sorry. I forgot. Stephen, do you have that to put up?
Yes, I am pulling it up.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I love this article. It's one of my favorite. It's liberating. No one's gonna disagree on this. You just throw in about 10 more $7 more million actually.
So before you, Madam Chair, is our motion to rescind various borrowing authorizations that the airport has taken out and no longer needs. You will notice they're rescinding the authorization for employee housing at Nobody Air Farm. So I'm sure that's near and dear to your heart, Madam Chair,
Yeah,
right?
but Brian, they already said they're gonna come back next year, so I'm already, yeah. That also, by the way, I'm gonna just say this to the committee is mentioned in the capital report that we highly encourage them to work with Christie on their project if they bring that back. David, thank you. We'll see.
Just for me.
Yeah, it was. All right, Brian, keep going.
Sure. So before you is the chart of articles that we can rescind the authorization to borrow because the projects are either closed or they no longer need the funding for them because they have financed it through transfers from retained earnings. So we would ask for a favorable motion on this rescinding the debt.
Can you get, what's the full amount?
I don't think we have a total,
About
but
10 million.
yeah.
Put it down.
Yeah,
Great, second?
I, second.
And Martin?
Aye.
Joanna? Aye.
So, aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And Jill's and I. Jeremy, Chris as well. Yeah, good. And Jill's and I. Great. That passes. We like that one. We really would love to see more of those. That'd be great, especially this year. Right, okay. I
We
don't
have
think there's
to-
any
we have
committee
a
reports. Our next meeting, Joe, just can you wait for a second? Our next meeting is Monday at 4 o'clock. We are going to have to look at CPC then, I believe. And we're gonna do our Island Home that day as well. I am going to strongly encourage, in spite of, not to disappoint you, Joe, but I am gonna encourage us to make a motion. If we want to change that at some point, we can, but we are supposed to weigh in on that article and it should be in print. And then we'll have our final meeting on Tuesday. So I think that'll be, we might be asked to do some technical amendments or things maybe later, but
Thursday,
think
we
we'll
have a
wrap it.
meeting with the select.
it's a joint meeting with planning and support.
Where's our closing banquet?
When's the award ceremony?
Do we need budget for that?
I don't know, can we get 0% loan if we go out? That sounds pretty good. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Don't move.
Second.
Peter?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Martin? Joanna?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And Jill is an aye. Thanks, everybody. Stephen, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Come join us.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, John.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody.
Thanks.